Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about From Season 2, Episode 8. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, let's start off with the Tabitha and Jade situation. So, Tabitha shows Jade the cave where her and Victor were at, where she saw the symbol amongst all those monsters. So it's like, right. For Jade, he feels like there's still so many missing pieces to the puzzle, and it's like we won't really be able to figure everything out. We won't really be able to escape this hellhole if we don't have all the pieces to it. But then it clicks in Jade's mind where it's like, wait, you escaped here with Victor, right? It's like, yeah. Wait, so Victor saw the symbol. It's like, yeah. The only reason why I took notice of it is because he said something about it. And it's like, right, I asked Victor all this stuff about the symbol and he hasn't told me everything. And we kind of get into that as the episode progresses of why Victor hasn't. Because for him, I mean, once again, people are underestimating. Like, Jade recognizes it, but also Jade can be a total tool. Recognizes, like, hey, he's been here for a long time, but it's still a thing of this place, which kills and messes with people's minds. He's been here since he was a kid. He's been here for decades. Out of anyone that's currently here, he's been the longest. So he's been here the longest. So of course it's going to weather his mind, especially because seeing all the terrible things that you've seen, you're not going to want to remember. But obviously he drew everything. So because of that, even if he can't remember, the whole point is the pictures will always remember. So obviously for Jade, it's like, right, you need to tell us everything. Nothing's insignificant because it's all pieces to the larger puzzle. Don't you want to go home? But for him, it's like, I am home. And it's understandable. For him, he has nothing because all he had was like his mom here. I mean, we don't know about his dad's situation. Maybe his dad bailed when he was young. Maybe his dad just died, wasn't in his life. Maybe they talked about that. But the only person he had was his mom. And as we find out later on, a sister. But his entire family, his entire world was here. And that was taken from him. Like, what do I have waiting for me on the outside world? I mean, even to the point, Ethan told him about the internet. He's like, nah, that doesn't exist. And then Julie had to be like, oh yeah, that's totally a thing. I mean, once again, he's been here that long. So what, like, the world outside is completely different. All he's ever known for most of his life is this place. He probably has fragmented memories of the past, but even then of like, you probably don't even want to remember the outside world too much because remembering the outside world is just a reminder of that world. It's almost like a dream because it was so long ago. It's so far away. It's so intangible. It's nothing to grab onto. This world, this nightmare he's been living in all these years is real. It is tangible. He's here and he doesn't want to give himself hope of escaping because the more you, like, as he talked about it, like the more you learn about this place, the more you go seeking the truth, the more you don't come back. It's like, that's why he doesn't want to tell anyone thing. Yes, he doesn't like Jade, and yeah, they have their issues, but he's scared of people dying. He's witnessed enough death. I think that's also why he probably has avoided getting close to anyone. Ethan might be the first person he got close to in a very, very long time. But because it's like, right, you don't want to get close to people just to watch them die, so you rather just kind of stay away from people. I mean, because Ethan seems like the only person, and now Tabitha, and weirdly enough, Jay, but they're the only people he's really gotten close to over the course of the series that we've kind of really gotten to know and see. But he ends up taking Tabitha to the drawings. And of course, I believe that has to be his mom's vehicle. Like, it's a thing of he already wouldn't want to go there. So of course he keep it in a place that's, for one, like, has a personal connection to him, but also a place he wouldn't be too willing to go down memory lane to try and look through it. So it's meant to be like a keep away of like, hey, these memories are here. I want to keep them buried, but I'm going to keep them somewhere in case I do need to remember so they're never forgotten. But I'm going to keep it in a place I'll be super reluctant to go into, and that his mom's vehicle. So, but that's when he discovers he had a sister, and he beats himself up because now the traumas come back up. I had a sister and I was so scared I stayed. I didn't chase after her because she was scared and chased after our mom, and that's the last time I saw her. I wasn't, in his mind, it's like I wasn't brave enough to chase after her. I stayed there scared, and it's like, you were a kid. No one can blame you for being scared under those circumstances. So, and I think a lot of that guilt is probably why he ended up repressing a lot of his memories. It triggers back to all of that in particular, but it's like losing your mom and your sister when it's like, it's my job to look after, and I failed. So, but then we also see one of his drawings is of the tower. Now, Tabitha and Jim don't know about, the only people who know about the tower would be Christy, Mario, and obviously Boyd and Kenny. They're the only ones who would know about the tower because Boyd's talked to them about it. I don't know if he really went into everything with Donna. I don't remember now. I think he did. So, but the tower, apparently, that's where my mom, like, the last place my mom went to go before everything went bad was to try and save all the children from the tower. And you're like, interesting. Which, well, because I was about to say Martin is a Marine, but I was like, we have no idea how long he's been there. So I wonder, has he been there, like, longer than Victor had? Because, once again, those worms or whatever inside of him were the things keeping him alive. But we don't know. Like, maybe he was one of the people that, like I said, because I was about to say no, because, like, Christopher was the dude that went crazy. Not unless Martin was lying about his name, but I don't think he is, but who knows. Not unless he is a child that was locked up there, but he's been there the entire... But once again, it's like, he can't be a child, because once again, him and Boyd connected because they had connections to the military. They're both Marines, so... I don't really make of that. I mean, he was in the tower, but the only person he saw in there was Martin. Not unless there's a separate tower, like... I mean, how do you even get into the tower? Like, the only reason why Boyd got in there was because it was completely by accident, so... Not... Because the trees can kind of take you anywhere. They're never going to take you to the same location, because Sarah got into the tree, like, immediately after Boyd did, but they ended up in two very different spots. And even when Boyd got out of the tower, it wasn't like the tower. So it's definitely in its own pocket dimension, whatever that may be. And how do you necessarily even get in there? Because it seems, like I said, even using the trees, it might seem random at best of popping in there. Not unless there's a surefire way to get in. I wonder, does it have anything to do with that spot where, once again, Jade had his vision? It's also where Julie popped up when she got pushed into the tree last season by Victor. So maybe that place is kind of a key doorway into getting into... the tower. Maybe there's multiple towers. Maybe that's one of the towers, and there's another one that specifically houses all the children, which I'm like, why is that the case? Is this like is this place kind of on some like Pied Piper shit, or like what? Why would you imprison the children, for what purpose? So there's all of that. So once again, everyone's it's just kind of almost that Stranger Things thing of like, hey, everyone's picking up threads. All we have to do is get everyone to talk, because everyone's keeping things to himself, because it's like, right, everyone's got their individual pieces to the puzzle that they're trying to put together. Just everyone needs to talk about it. But it's like, I can still understand why Boyd and them don't want to talk about what they've discovered, because we don't know if it works. And once again, everyone, as Donna put it previously, everyone got their hopes up about the antenna and everything last season, and that came crashing down. And now everyone who was already hanging on by a thread is hanging on even further by an edge. They're all like a hair length away from falling off the edge. So it's not a time to be giving anyone false hope. So they want to figure this out themselves of like, well, can we do anything about this? Elgin's actually the one that gave Boyd the idea of, well, how we test this out is, how do we get these inside these creatures, like make silver bullets, douse these, and like coat the bullets in this bile and see if it works. So, but also speaking of Elgin, it turns out the situation that happened to him at the end of last episode was a dream, but when someone woke him up, he spit up water like he was legitimately drowning. And I was like, no shot. I'm like, we're Freddy Kruegering this? Really? I was like, yo. It's like, dude, you're awake is a waking nightmare, because you also got some characters who are seeing things that aren't there. That's bad enough. Now you also have people being hurt and potentially getting killed in their dreams, get killed in real life. It's like, dude, you're not safe. This place, it's like, we've already passed phase 1 now that we're at this point. Let's bump up the difficulty a little bit. You know, maybe there is some truth to what Jim's saying about this place is meaning to break people. I mean, it's kind of already done a good enough job, but Boyd ends up getting Kenny involved, and they go back to, which I should also note, Kenny had one too, but he picked up the phone. It didn't even click on my head he was hearing the music box, which continues to be like, that must be the Freddy Krueger of this place. Like, the fact is, we've gotten so many people who've seen the music box now. Boyd's seen it. Mariel's seen it. Kenny heard it. He might have seen it. I don't remember from that scene, but he said he heard it. Elgin's seen it. So it's like, that music box has got to be like the thing, because it's almost like the voice on the other line of the phone when Kenny picked up was like, hey, you need to like basically stop the melody, because that was also what Martin had warned Boyd. I guess maybe it's a thing of, once you've heard the melody, if you let it complete, that's kind of like a summoning ritual, or maybe it's a thing of now, like, if you don't, it's a nerdy thing to just reference, but it's like, it's kind of like Aizen's Bankai. Once you've seen it, you can never beat Aizen ever again. I actually don't remember the specifics of Aizen's Bankai. Wasn't it like an illusionary thing where it's like, once you've seen it, like it's forever in brain, like you can never fully break through the spell. That's why Ichigo was so special, because he was the only person who's never seen Aizen's Bankai. So that's why he was the only person that could defeat him. So I'm wondering if it's kind of a similar thing where it's like, once you've heard that melody to its completion, you're done. Like, it's forever ingrained in you. It's dead. I don't know. But Kenny had his dreams about, were they locusts or were they cicadas? I don't remember. They might have been cicadas. But he saw these bugs out of the pot. One of them, like, crawled into his skin. I was wondering, like, are these supposed to be those worms? I was like, what, did they transform? But then one got on his arm, and he wakes up with a burn mark on his arm. I mean, to be fair, the things were cooking in a pot. But then, later on, they go to the hospital, they find the body, the monster's body, and those are crawling out. So I'm like, did it evolve from those worms? Did they turn into that? But by the time Boyd and them go back in there later on, with Donna, they're not there anymore. It's like, no, we shut the door. How did they get out? It's like, dude, there's so much crazy shit happening all at once. For one, Donna's getting filled in on like, wait, this is all going down. I'm not just anybody. Obviously, I'm one of the head honchos of this place. I've kind of got seniority in this place. So when something goes down, especially something of this magnitude, you tell me. I will be able to, we're kind of the leader, so we'll dictate, especially Donna's having to be the one that had to try and navigate, okay, how many people know what at this point in time, you know, especially about the food situation, until Dell kind of screwed the pooch on that, so. Which he's still locked up for stabbing Ellis. Which really quickly, too, diverting a little bit, the Ellis thing is kind of weird to me. That's why I'm like, did Boyd really get rid of all the worms in his skin, or did they, like, lay eggs or something? Because Ellis is like, yo, I'm feeling good, I feel better. It's like, you did get stabbed, and I wouldn't expect you to make a full recovery, because he even said, like, Chrissy's surprised, but I'm like, the moment he was like, oh yeah, my body's hurting, and that pain's just going to be something I'm dealing with for a while, but at the time I was like, could it be those worms are in him? I mean, other than Boyd seeing them and feeling them underneath his skin, there was no way of really telling if they're there. Like, how do you know you got rid of every single one and one of them didn't just go to Ellis? Because the whole point was like, hey, with this in his system, Martin didn't die. It kept him alive. So same thing could be in Ellis's case. Maybe that's also why he ended up surviving, why maybe he didn't bleed to death, or maybe those things be... Well, that was before he got the blood transfusion, I believe, so. But that could have helped with, like, the remedy process, so I don't know. He also didn't have an opportunity to tell his dad about, hey, so, about Fatima being pregnant, so. We need some good news with all this dire, terrible news, you know. They end up burning the monster's body at the end of the episode, which I'm like, I hope that is like a permanent enough solution of like it just burning the body, which also ties into the other side of things where Jim and Randall, oh yeah, the new best of buds of, Randall going back to the point of, well, how do we know that there aren't, any experiment, like you have to have your people on the inside who seem like they're like victims of it all, who are actually in the know about the experiments. He starts thinking, how do we know if anyone that actually died? It's like, yeah, but what about that dude as well as Tom? They got ripped apart. It's like, yeah, but I didn't actually see it go down. Maybe it's the audience kind of has, but that could be any subterfuge of like, if we were to go down Randall's thought process, we've never seen anyone kind of literally ripped apart. But it's also like, Jim hasn't seen it, but the others have. But arguably the argument could be, well, that was always the aftermath you've seen. You've never. So it could be, hey, we're leaving on some Stranger Things conspiracy theory of like, oh, let's put a fake body out there that, oh, you seem a little crazy, but there might be some truth to the conspiracy. I don't think that's the case. I think Randall's, like Jim, probably, we don't know enough about Randall. Like, Randall might already be kind of a conspiracy theorist nut, and Jim just added fuel to the fire that he's he's already shown that he's a very unstable individual, and Jim picked the wrong person. It's like, how he acted in the beginning should have been a key sign of like, yeah, stay away from this douchebag, because douchebags are going to douchebag, so. But, because Jim brings up like, all right, all these dead bodies, and then he brings up Nathan. It's like, well, Sarah, this place messed with her head. She killed her brother, but he's like, yeah, but what if she didn't? What if her brother's still alive? Because Jim is smart enough to be like, all right, we're not going to go around accusing people. We need to watch people and figure out like, oh, like I said, that's where I started getting worried that My immediate God, who did I think he was going to suspect? I can't remember off the top of my head who I thought he was going to suspect. Like maybe Mario, like what's kind of my thought that it's like, right, you're Christy's fiance, you just happen to be here. Like I figured he'd start connecting some dots and he'd probably allocate their debt. He hasn't gotten there yet, but maybe him and Randall would. I think Jim might have some enough sanity to like pull back, but while dealing with Randall, so he might have to kind of walk on eggshells around that situation, or maybe Jim will get swept up in it. We'll have to wait and see how that plays out. But I mean, especially continuing the recap and discussion points, Randall going after Donna because he followed her and it's like, oh, they're disposing of a body. What secret are they keeping? Hush, hush. And it's like, well, Donna will probably tell them next episode, but it will be a situation of, will Randall believe her? Will Jim believe her? It's like, right. Especially because in Jim's mind, it's like, right, you are the one that keeps telling me to kind of forget about the voice. You're trying to tell me. So he might get swept up in it because he's so desperate to get home. But also, Jim has kind of showcased that he is the person that kind of feels like he has to be right. Understandably, like, everyone has to find that thing that they hold on to, in this place, that kind of keeps them saying that piece of themselves they kind of have to hold on to. And for Jim, it's his rational thinking. It's like, right, there's got to be more to it. Once, even last episode, was it last episode? Tabitha was like, how do you explain the monsters? It's like, he didn't give a really definitive enough answer, but he's like, right, science could, fake something like that or come up with something like that, but he doesn't have answers for everything, but he's still trying to hold on to some rational thinking, trying to find a rational explanation for everything. Because it's like, right, this can't all be supernatural, like, monstrous. Like, there's got to be some person behind it. But it's like, who's to say the voice you heard on the radio, and as Donna's kind of made the point of, what if, like, this whole thing is a manipulation? Like, what if they've been playing you? They wanted you to hear that voice because they know who you are, Jim. They know you're the type of person to fixate and spiral, which makes you and Randall two peas in a pod. I mean, now you also have to think to yourself, it's like, well, Randall suggested that, but who's to say Randall isn't gaslighting you? Because, hey, maybe if let's take the possibility that this is some manipulation and that this is some experiment. Who's to say Randall isn't the inside person? It's like, yeah, it's like throw suspicion off yourself by suggesting it, making yourself seem like the biggest asshole. And then like everyone kind of stays away from you. And now you end up being this guy that's like, hey, Jim, you sound a little crazy, but I'm the same guy in the same boat with you. I believe there might be some truth to that. Once again, he could easily be gaslighting Jim, but even to the point they like ganged up on Sarah Jim was trying not to because he is still like handling the Sarah situation with kid gloves. He believes a little bit of what Randall said, but he wanted to kind of take things slow. But now even Sarah's like, yo, why did they ask me if my brother's still alive? And Donna being there and Randall getting all up in her face. And Donna literally said, that guy's a powder keg and are you going to take responsibility for it? And it's like, Jim should have listened. Once again, Randall's shown how much of a douchebag, now let's cut out douchebag, how much of an asshole he can be. So, guys unhinged. Like I said, we've showcased that already at the beginning of the show. It's just only a matter of time. This show kind of plays on like the probably worst parts of people and uses that against them and, just for fun because this place just loves fucking with people like that. I'm glad things played out at least to the extent that they did, because I was worried him being... to be fair, she was near Colony House, so there's no way he'd do anything to her publicly. Too many witnesses. But I was just like... I thought I was like, are you going to try and kill her? But it's like, no, you're going to pump her for information. Because him and Jim came up with this whole plan of like, right, we're going to watch one of these monsters. We'll really get to see whether or not what they do when they don't realize they're being watched type of situation, right? And now you see with Randall tying her up, he's going to use her as bait, which is kind of sad. Considering just everything, it's like, I hope Donna doesn't die. I get the feeling like Randall might end up being dead, or like he'll end up screwing up and killing Donna and he himself dies in the process type of situation. I don't know. And that's all going to be on Jim. Like I said, it's going to be interesting to see how Jim plays this. Will he try to placate Randall to calm him down because it's like, hey, the guy's got a knife, he's unstable, so I'm gonna try and play like, hey, I'm with him, but try and secretly get Donna out of this? Or will he get swept up in hysteria and be like, hey, what would you dispose of? And like I said, maybe Donna, either she'll keep it hush-hush or she'll admit everything just to keep them, but who's to say they will believe her or not? So we'll ultimately have to wait to see where that takes us. And finally, after disposing of the body, Kenny was with Boyd, and they walked by like Kenny's mom, Ethan, and Julie, and then they start hearing the bugs, or at least Kenny did, and the guy goes running out of his house covered in blood, which I'm like, at first I'm wondering, like, are those things going to, like, infect everybody, or are they going to spread around and, like, get underneath everyone's skin? Like, what's that whole deal? Like, why is he running away covered in, like, what happened in there? Like, I have no idea what to fully expect. We've only got 2 episodes of the season left, so it's going to be interesting to see where the next episode takes us and what that ultimately ends up. What ends up going down on that front, and also what that does to set up for the season finale, how this all plays out. We'll ultimately have to wait and see where it all takes us going forward. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and good